Folks, how's everybody doing? Welcome. My name is Rudy. You're watching Alpha Investments. Today we're going to have a conversation about just general finance. Just sitting here, staring at pictures and thinking about life and history and where we came from and how we got here. And today's conversation is going to be on the state of what I believe is coming and what the market conditions are, mostly financial with the stock market and the economy and everything. Now, before we get into this video, these are usually very emotionally charged videos and topics that make, depending on where you are in the world, depending on where you're watching this video, is going to dictate how you feel about what I'm about to say. If you're living in a small town somewhere and you got annihilated from a hurricane and the government's giving you the middle finger and abandon you because our government is a joke and all this stuff, you're going to be pretty negative, and it's going to feel like the world is ending for you, which honestly, that's a terrible situation to be in. Sorry, little hiccups there. Some people are going to be experiencing just normal inflationary pressures as a normal working individual or supporting your family and things like that. And it's going to make you very negative and very bitter on what's going on. And I'm going to make a video here and I'm going to tell you all what I feel is going on and what I feel is going to come over the next few years, and how I think it's kind of ridiculous, but this is what I feel is going to happen. This is the most probable outcome of what I think is going to happen, okay? So for most people, the economy doesn't feel good. For the average working individual, the average adult, the average college student, the world does not feel very favorable. It doesn't feel like we're going in a good direction. It doesn't feel like things are getting easier. To me, it feels like we are slowly going in a direction where things are going to get harder and harder. Kind of hard mode is engaged. I feel like the easy mode of low inflation, more stable news cycles, calmer living conditions, and I feel like all of these things are transitioning right now to a more higher difficulty rating. So for most people, it's going to give you the feeling that the economy in the world is going spiraling out of control and getting worse and worse. Now, for a select few, I would say probably 1 to 3% of the United States population who is wealthy or has a lot of assets, I believe it's going to skyrocket for those individuals. So essentially, as we say, there's only two types of people in this world. There's people who pay interest to live their lives and survive. And the interest can go to banks, IRS, child support, alimony, student loans, credit cards, car payments, mortgages. That's category number one. And there's only one other category in this world. And that is category number two, which is every day you wake up when the sun comes up, you get paid for just having assets. So we only have two categories of individuals. Everybody's wound up on politics. Everyone's wound up on gender. Everyone's wound up on the quality of Rudy's $7 haircut. Everyone's wound up on the direction of the world and all the wars in the world, the government, the corruption, the problems. And those are all real things. And a goofball like me in Florida can't do anything about it. And guess what? 99.9% of you all watching this channel, we can't do anything about it. I guess we can use our paper straws and drink really quick before they dissolve in our mouth. And maybe that makes us feel better, as China does more pollution per day than you can comprehend in your lifetime. But that's irrelevant because there's nothing we can do. I live my life and I focus my life on a situation where the things that I have some form of choice in. That's why many of you all ask me about politics and a lot of these different kind of more hot topics and things. And I don't really have much an answer because I don't spend my time thinking about that stuff. Most of the input I get is most of you all who are wound up about one political party or the other, of which both are corrupt, of which neither one of them cares about you, of which both you can't do anything about. So why are you living a life upset or dangerous or wound up or concerned about things you can't control? I don't know. Life is complicated enough. So back to the assets. So two types of people. You either make interest and you have assets that pay you every month, or you are pretty much paying banks and loans and leverage to survive in this world. If you are in category number 2, where you have an upkeep of loans and interest and payments, and you've been paying on your student loan for 10 years and you still owe most of the balance because essentially you're paying almost all interest and fees and not the principal, you're going to have a very, very difficult future. You know, I'm here to tell you, and I'm a guy who sells cardboard for a living, and I'm here to tell you, cardboard's great. Card games are great. I like you all supporting me on Patreon, and we have talks about finance and money. I sell you things. You pay me through Bitcoin or PayPal, and we do business, and all the rest of you never buy anything. We just talk about life, and that's okay. But if you want, again, as I tell you all, the real conversation is there's no shortcut. I don't have any get-rich-quick program for you guys. And unfortunately, everything on the internet, most of the people on the internet, most of the get-rich-quick stuff, the shortcuts, the hottest box of cards, the hottest stock, the trading program, the real estate programs, all these things, I'm sorry, there's nothing there. It's common sense that I've been making videos on YouTube for almost 10 years. And I don't have a secret for you guys. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. You can be a patron. You can give me 69 cents a month. You can give me $69 a month as a patron. We can talk about life. You can ask me questions. And guess what? There's nothing I can do to help you do a shortcut in life and skip ahead on the Monopoly board. Because it's not how it works. It took me 25 years from waiting tables and turning wrenches and oil changes to get anywhere in this world. And I will not be downplaying. A lot of that journey was not very fun. And a lot of it had a lot of failures. And that brings me to the next thing. I expect to see a lot more failures moving forward in life, and the stock market, companies collapsing as we evolve, and card games collapsing as we evolve. The companies in the card world that overprint, I don't think they'll stand the test of time. I think the stock market is going to see a lot of companies that are going to be mismanaged or living on debt or not profitable. I think they will continue to be flushed out, as we've seen from a lot of these SPACs in special purpose companies. These companies that went public in 2020, 2021, most have gone bankrupt by now. But companies that don't make money, and companies that live lavish lifestyles, and people who live beyond their means, and people who buy flashy shit and can't afford it, I do think they will continue to fold. I think the future is going to get more and more difficult. And I hope someone out there watching this video can understand that the most important thing right now is to work on yourself and your family. And you have your health, your household, your job, your career, and you need to find a way to get out of debt and slowly build and save money and build wealth and get that tipping point. You need to get to a point, because remember this, folks, remember this. The age-old thing, I'll never forget this. I had I'm not going to give it away in case I think this person watches this YouTube channel. I had a friend or a family member or a coworker, let's just say that, about 15 years ago, and we invested in some mutual funds for them. And they did really well, actually. They did really well. I think in a 2-year period, I think it made 15% year one, and I think 13 or 14% year two. So about 30% return in 2 years this individual made. Now, the individual was so upset because the return was so bad, they closed the account, liquidated it, and blew all the money. And I asked why that was. I asked why that individual did that. And the individual responded to me, he or she responded to me saying, well, Rudy, it wasn't worth the time. I mean, I invested my $2,000 and, I waited 2 years, like you said, Rudy. And my $2,000 only ended up being it was $2,700. It was terrible. And 2 years of waiting. And I looked at that individual and I said, are you fucking crazy? That's incredible. And that was one of the important moments of my young financial career when I was actually a licensed broker working at a firm. I realized that the difference between an individual who understands yields and growth and percentage is very different than an individual who's dealing with wealth and things versus someone who just has a few $1,000s in the bank. And you all have to understand, if you make 20%, congratulations, that's a big deal. Now the internet, especially my YouTube channel focused around cardboard and collectibles, someone who says, Rudy, well, I bought a $100 box of cards and in 2 years I sold it And after shipping and fees, I only made 20%. This is stupid. And I say, wow, okay, so yeah, 2 years, your $100 turned into 120 after paying shipping and fees and maybe $15. So, 35% gross profit, 20% net. And you thought it was terrible, and I get it. But here's the thing. If you do the same thing, see, that's the example, is when you put $2,000 in the S&P 500, and you wait a couple years, and you make 20%. A normal person is going to say, I put $2,000 in the S&P, and everyone said that's the thing to do in this world, and 2 years later, my $2,000 were $2,400 after 2 years of waiting? This is awful. And then Timmy gets all upset and closes their account and doesn't contribute, and that's how it is. And then you've got Big Dick Timmy over here, comes waddling in the room, has to use a wheelbarrow to get through the front door, and he walks in. Hashtag wheelbarrow. That's how I know if you're watching the video still. Sorry, that was pretty funny. Fuck. All right. And then, of course, Mr. Wheelbarrow comes in, and he goes, Rudy, thank you for so much for telling me to save money, get out of debt, and invest for my future. I made 20% the last 2 years. Super excited. Gives me a free Taco Bell gift card or a Chick-fil-A gift card, and, shakes my hand and inappropriate hug. And I say, well, how much have you, because this individual put, instead of $2,000, put maybe $2 million. And I know that's not realistic for most people. $2 million is a pipe dream. But that person who put $2 million in the S&P makes 20%. They just made $400,000. They made almost $500,000. Same return as little Timmy over there. And little Timmy's depressed and angry. And wheelbarrow Timmy over here thinking he rules the world. They did the exact same thing. And that is the difference of law of large numbers in understanding a few things. And that is, you cannot just put $2,000 in Bitcoin, in fractional share ownership, in the S&P 500, in a box of Pokemon, a box of Magic, a box of Weiss, Flesh and Blood, Lorcana, Sorcery. It doesn't matter what it is. You cannot put $2,000 in something and expect it to change your life, because you didn't nurture it, you didn't grow it, you didn't contribute to it, you didn't walk up to it every day, shake its hand, give it some water. That's what plants need, right? Electrolytes. It's the stock market is not designed to make you rich, folks. There's always an exception, which somebody will point to and say, hey, I knew this one guy over here who lived in this one basement, who had this one head, was missing an arm, but had 3 balls, and this happened to me, Rudy. Well, that's great. I'm happy for Mr. 3 balls, no head, 1 arm. But for the normal living person, who's a working normal person with a family and they want to just have a good life, you cannot get rich in the stock market, folks. It doesn't work that way. The understanding is very skewed. The way it works, from my experience in this world, is rich people get wealthy in the stock market. So somebody who has $1 million, worked their whole life, sold a business, happened to keep a bunch of rare baseball cards from the Honus Wagner era, happened to keep all their original Pokemon cards from the 90s in sealed boxes, and they liquidate it, and they make $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. And that's amazing. We all, as regular humans, should celebrate somebody else's success. That's not what we do in 2024. We frown upon, we get uncomfortable, we get jealous, we get angry, and we like successful people to be brought down, and we don't appreciate things like that. It's not what our culture is. Our culture is swiping on short little videos with fancy cars, private jets, and perfect 10 chicks with airbrushed makeup and all this stuff with 14 boobs and perfectly straight hair and all this stuff and these fancy outfits and fancy casinos and fancy this, and we all feel bad about ourselves because we realize, wow, he or she looks amazing and I can never get that. Boy, my life sucks, I'm depressed, and my life is shit. And that is a side effect of one of the downturns of social media in our modern culture. It's not real, folks. It's not real. Most of the people in fancy houses and fancy things, It's an Airbnb, they rent it, or it's fake. Everything behind Rudy's a green screen, right? Things aren't real. The thing, people trying to sell you $1,000 program or a CD, that person's going to get rich selling those CDs, not because they're smart in the stock market. The person's selling you how to hack the real estate market and get rich, and what hot stock and what house to flip. They're going to get rich because they're selling you a multi-$1,000 monthly program that you're going to pay tens of thousands for. And in reality, you can just watch free YouTube videos and watch Rudy and watch an MIT lecture or watch a Harvard University lecture, watch Goldman Sachs employees do interviews for 2 hours and talk about life. And if you're interested in finance, it's free. You don't need to go to fancy six-figure colleges and get loans and in debt and be a part of the machine. You don't need to do any of that, folks. This is 2024. Everyone I've known, the most successful people I've met in my 40 years on this planet, folks, they didn't get successful. They didn't make millions. They're not living a fulfilling life with a beautiful family because they went to college. I've never met a single person that is so grateful that their life was so amazing because of college. I haven't met it. And I know they're out there. I'm not saying it's not, but I haven't met that. And I'm sure a few of them exist, but I'm telling you, most wealth, most money is made from people going against the grain, starting a business, doing something on their own, working for a company. There's nothing wrong with having a normal job, working for a normal company, being a police officer, a firefighter, a teacher, a garbage dude. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Those are respectable, good jobs and careers for human civilization. You make good money, 50,000, 100,000 plus. Well, maybe not the teacher one, which is ridiculous, but that's a different video. But most of those jobs pay good. And if you are putting money in a 401k and the company's matching 4 or 5%, and you're not living beyond your means, then you're saving money. You're doing your 401k. You're putting your stuff aside. You're paying off your house. You're not getting in credit card debt. Sure, buy some collectibles, buy a Bitcoin, buy a rental house, have fun. There's nothing wrong with that. Have your vacation, spend time with family. You don't need to work 80 hours a week. You don't need to work 100 hours a week and be miserable to break out of the mold. It increases the odds of breaking out of the mold, but it's not a prerequisite. It's not a requirement to do that stuff, okay? Okay, you're talking to a guy who grew up with parents, who made sandwiches for a living, who worked in restaurants for 10 years, worked 4 years in car dealerships, in 24-hour car dealerships overnight, turning wrenches, doing oil changes, who went to a community college. That was me, okay? And if I can do it, there's absolutely no reason somebody else who has the drive is willing to go 10, 20 years can do it, okay? There's nothing special. It's literally just the choices you make and whether or not you're willing to go the distance. That's all it is, folks. The college, the $1 million, the student loans, all this stuff, it's fucking fairy dust, man. The real money is made from just seeing the world, looking for opportunities, paying attention, looking at the little things. And then once you come across something, you get out of debt, you pay off your cars and pay off your house, and then suddenly you don't have a car payment. You don't have a mortgage payment. You have a couple $1,000. All of a sudden, your pay skyrockets because the first of the month comes around, and you didn't pay $500 for a car payment. You didn't pay $3,000 a month for a mortgage. Or if you're in California, $10,000 a month for a mortgage. If you're in New York, $1 million a month. You get the idea. No memes, no jokes, no giddies. Don't fuck around. This is serious. And it's suddenly you wake up and it's the first of the month and you're like, wow, it's the first month I don't have debt. I have an extra like $5,000, $10,000 this month from not having a car payment or a mortgage. Huh. And suddenly you start getting freedom and choice. You have capital to do things. And those are the most important turning points of your life. Most businesses fail, folks. This thing about being an entrepreneur, and that's how you have to make your millions, yeah, that's possible. That's a real thing. Most millionaires are not trust fund babies. They are not getting rich in the stock market. Most of them are not crypto bros. No, most millionaires in this world, because they started doing a side hustle, or they started working for somebody, or they started a little business, it grew, and they milked it, grew it, and played with it for 10, 20 years, and it turned them into a millionaire. Many people work for companies 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Their 401k goes from $10,000 to $50,000 to $100,000 to $250,000 to $1 million to $2 million. And all of a sudden you got the millionaire next door situation. Why? Because they lived a normal life with maybe their family, and they just didn't keep up with the Joneses. They didn't walk out their front yard completely naked, swinging their tether balls around like a helicopter, yelling at cars when they went by, yelling, what color is your Bugatti? People weren't doing that. And that's what the internet, that's the distortion of reality. Remember, folks, in most of the videos, even on YouTube, with private jets, these hot chicks, this and that, you rent them. They're not real. There's private jet studios here in Florida. I can pay $100 an hour and I can film videos in a fake private jet room. It's insane. Okay? And again, then the other side of the coin, the smoking hot chick that you're eyeballing and Googling over is probably some OnlyFans chick who's probably going and being flown around getting railed by a bunch of dudes that you don't want to be a part. You don't want that. How can you want that? You think you want that, but you don't. And, because all this stuff is a distortion, man. So let's zoom out for a minute here. So the key thing I want to go back to in this video is, I want to focus on the stock market. It's really hot right now. Interest rates are coming down. Margin and leveraging and starting to borrow on credit cards and go on margin and brokerage accounts with E-Trade, Scott Trade, Interactive Brokers, Robinhood, Schwab, whatever. People are starting to want to go on margin again. They want to borrow on margin, get a 3x Direxion tech fund. So they're on margin on a 3x fund, so they're leveraged 6 to 1. They want to go on some crypto exchange and leverage 20 to 1 on Bitcoin. We're starting to head back into this mindset. I've been through so many booms and busts of 2007, 8, 9 crash, boom and bust, 2020 collapse, rebound, 2021 thing. I've seen these things. I've got the gold star. I've seen all this stuff happen. And the people who always come out of these things in the best situation are the people who aren't emotional and the people who are able to navigate this stuff. In 2022, in 2023 last year, I literally had a patron told me they went through my videos. They told me there were 27 YouTube videos I published on this channel in 2023, I think, or the end of 2022, in a 12-month window before this year. 27 fucking videos I put on this channel of me, he said, where I at least said in one sentence in the video about telling people to buy something, buy anything, buy the S&P 500, buy anything. I said that in 27 videos in the last 18 months before 2024 rolled around and the bull market came back. And nobody talks about that. Nobody remembers that. I don't expect credit for it. I don't expect acknowledgement for it. I'm just telling you all I thought it was fascinating that somebody sent me that, because that's more than I thought. I would probably say like maybe 5 to 10 videos I mentioned it when I was ranting and raving on YouTube and the camera. And I assure you all, I look back at those videos, the views on this channel were very high because, again, everybody was negative. The news cycles and the drama was all negative. Everything was crashing. Hasbro was crashing. Magic 30 was crashing. Pokemon Scarlet Violet came out a year ago. Every Pokemon set was bad, and people were making fun of me with my heavy bags of Scarlet Violet. Everybody was making fun of everything because that was the cool thing to do. And now, as with everything in life, you watch time unfold. And now we're in a bull market. I don't know how much money my inventory has appreciated. I don't know how much money my assets have appreciated. But, I'll be honest with you all, I probably on paper, between real estate and inventory and, brokerage accounts, my net worth and value has probably increased between $10 and $20 million in the last 24 months. Doesn't really change anything for me. I still make the videos with you guys and open box openings and live a normal life and do my thing every day and work every day and have my normal work schedule with everyone and helping out doing the card grading with PCG, shipping the orders, replying to patron messages every night. I mean, everything's the same. It's nice to see it because to me it's more of a bittersweet thing because it reinforced that having the cool level-headed confidence of just staying the course was right. And the only way you know if someone's right or wrong is you revisit the topic multiple years later and you look at the receipts and you look at the data and you see who was right and who was wrong. That's really all there is to it. And now we talk about where we are in 2024. And that is, the easy money's been made, folks. We're talking about the stock market right now. The Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ are at all-time highs. It doesn't mean to sell. You're buying at the top. That's not how this works. Bull markets tend to be multi-year. We're about a year into a bull market. Okay? Which means the odds and the probability are in our favor that the next 12 to 36 months are going to be very, very successful on Wall Street, especially with a negative to flat interest rate environment, with Pokemon and Magic leading the charge of extremely bullish market conditions. That means a lot of wealth and a lot of money is going to be made for a very select few amount of people. I'm not here to tell you if you're a patron of mine, and I'm here to shill for myself because that's what I always do. Duh, I'm Rudy. I'm not here to tell you what box to buy. I think it's going to make you a millionaire because, as you all know, if I knew what box was going to be the next Evolving Skies, why would Rudy buy every single Scarlet Violet set of 1,000+ boxes and have to hoard every single set? If I fucking knew which box was going to go up, I wouldn't have to do that. I'm not smart enough to figure that out, but I've built a strong enough business and cash flow over the last 15 years. It's given me the privilege to be able to just buy all of it. I can shotgun spread the whole thing and just have exposure and put my flippin' tentacle on all of it. So when the item of Twilight Masquerade goes from $100 a box to, what is it, $170, $180 now? And you've got 1,300 boxes, it's like, boom, instant hit. Mr. P, SVO2, goes from 100 to 150, oh, boom. Same thing. So I think moving forward, the stock market, all this stuff is going to continue to be successful, but I don't think the gains are going to be as big. I think if the gains get too big, I think people need to be, it may be time to cool your jets a little. If the stock market, for some small chance, does have a melt up, which is the most dangerous thing in economic finance history, if we do have a melt up and it goes crazy, and we have a 30, 40, 50, 60% return in a 12-month period of the S&P or anything along those lines, those are situations where you do need to take profits and you need to protect yourself. Because if the growth rate gets too extreme in the S&P, ladies and gentlemen, the S&P 500 and the Qs and the NASDAQ year to date, I think we're like 25% return year to date on the S&P. It's fucking massive, okay? And if we go 30% before the end of the year or 35% before the end of the year, and next year we do 20, 30, 40, 50% again, and you got a 2-year window where the stock market's up like 70%, those are situations that you need to probably say, hey, you know what? Let's say you got, outrageous amount of money, $100 million. You may want to take off at least half of the money, lock in profits, maybe move it over to some more conservative, less exposure, and kind of just let things settle. And it's okay to miss a little bit of a return. We're not trying to be the best investor of all time. We're not trying to beat the market. Nobody cares. Nobody does that. I'm just telling you, you need to protect yourself in times where things get a little too good to be true. Which brings me back to Pokemon. Pokemon is very... Pokemon feels too good to be true for me right now. Let's pretend I have an even 1,000 boxes of every set, which isn't true. Some sets I have 900 boxes. Some sets I have 1,500 boxes. Let's say I have an even 1,000. So we're on SVO 8 coming up. Let's say that's 8,000 boxes. So for the next 12 months, if the next 2 years, the average Scarlet Violet set in Pokemon goes to $200 a box. And I'm saying that because some sets will be like 120, 130. Some sets will be 200, 300. It'll average 200 because that's just how law of large numbers works. If I'm at like 8,000 boxes times $200 a box, what is that? Maybe $1.61 million, of which the profit is what? Over $1 million or something? I don't know. And situations like that, when the profit and things happen that extreme, it makes me a little uneasy because that's not really what the business strategy was. The business strategy of handling CCGs is, I told you all from 9.5 years ago on YouTube, my goal was 7 to 9% a year. That is my goal. If I end the year and I make 8%, I'm a happy camper. If I end the year and I make 9%, I think I'm a rock star. If I end the year and make 4%, it's sad, but it's still positive. In 2023, or the end of 2022, I was easily down a couple $1 million in stocks in portfolio in the brokerage account. Easily down maybe 5, 8, maybe $10 million in inventory on Magic and Sealed Pokemon. Scarlet Violet was trash. All the Magic boxes were trash. All the collector boxes of Phyrexia, March the Machine, Boulder's Gates, Kamigawa, Streets, Infinity, Crimson, everything was going to go to $99. Collector boxes were just done. Everything was useless. So I was easily down millions there too. Now, unlike everybody else, I didn't fire sell everything. I didn't sell into the downward momentum, which accelerated the falling knife, which accelerated everybody's losses and made everybody feel more and more sad every day the sun came up. I didn't do any of that. I did my normal Friday night sales with patrons and everything, and Sunday night sales, and I'd sell collector boxes. Maybe 1% of the patrons would buy it. Nobody would really buy it. Everyone just said, no thanks, Rudy, your prices are too high. I would sell Pokemon. Sometimes people would buy it. I had a Paradox Rift sale on Pokemon maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago for $99 a box shipped to your door. So that'd be equal to what TCG Player getting boxes for what, $92 plus tax. And not much sold. Patrons just kind of nobody really. And that I'm not upset by it. I'm not excited by it. I just think it's interesting to watch the human behavior and the cycle of psychology. All right, we're going to wrap this video up. I hope you guys enjoy my rambles. There's no real point to this video, but let me go back to the stock market. I just want everyone to understand that it's not always good to chase the hottest thing. I've been quietly enjoying my pinball hobby, the pinball machines. In the last couple of years, I've been expanding in my original art collection from museums around the United States and Europe and everything. I buy original paintings from museums when they change things or they go to Christie's or Sotheby's, and I buy 18th, 19th century original paintings. As you can see, most of the paintings are European art, usually interiors, multiple figures, different details, things like that, oil on canvas or oil on board, things like that. I enjoy it. It makes me happy because I look at it and I see a piece of history and human history, and when I look at these old paintings behind me, it reminds me of a different world. It reminds me of an era of all these people when any of these people were alive, which none of them are. They're all been fucking dead for 50 to 100 years. And I look at these paintings behind me and I think about everything, and I try to think about what those individuals were thinking and how happy or powerful some of the political people were in these paintings, and the royalty people, the women in the dresses and the castles, and these women in these special dances, and in Europe that would be these royalty and princesses and trying to marry into things and sell themselves and all this stuff. I look at the history and I look at it. It's fascinating to me. Because to those people in those paintings and what they painted and what they saw, the person who painted these things behind me, they sat in a room or a castle or a building and they were painting what they saw with no electricity, painting outside with natural light. And they would paint these scenes and capture it for forever. And you would look at that. And when you and I get to look at these paintings, and we get the privilege of looking at them, and I get the privilege of owning them, and I get to look at that, and I get to take myself into a world, and it helps my brain think differently. It helps me view things differently. And it helps me kind of, not connect very much to the YouTube comments, and not connect very much to the internet drama. And I don't really connect much. I don't get fazed much by social media. All of you out there that live on Twitter, and you're going to get older, and you're going to look back, and you're going to realize how much of your life you wasted not watching informative YouTube videos, not listening to lectures or documentaries or learning or reading, but just watching frivolous anger on Twitters and Facebooks and MySpaces and Discords and Reddits of whatever the drama of Pokemon goes to zero because X-ray machines. Magic is dead, the reserve list is dead because the commander, they banned cards, and everybody gets distorted, and they go full tilt, and they get angry with their lives, and it affects everything with them for maybe a day, a week, or a month. And then we fast forward, and now we look back and go, wow, the X-ray Pokemon thing, is that even a fucking, nobody cares. And then you look back at these things, and things change, and the commander banning, and now Wizards takes it over. It's going to make different tiers, and everything works out. And all the people that were angry and screeching on the internet, they just waste their lives. They burn the clock. We all have so much time on this world until we're all dead. And then we all end up on these paintings. And when we're on the paintings, we're all dead, and the future generation is going to look at us and try to figure out what the hell we were talking about. It's kind of a weird thing to think about, isn't it? And yet, people now, whatever direction the wind goes, everybody wants to buy the new thing, but nobody wanted to buy when everything was half price, when every sword and shield and every Scarlet and Violet, or last year, every Scarlet and Violet set in Pokemon, nobody wanted it. Couldn't sell it, couldn't give it away. The Magic collector boxes, the Lord of the Rings holiday fucking special. Easiest $300,000 ever made just sitting on those things. Gave up after three sales. I tried to sell those things to patrons and privately. Nobody fucking wanted them. And now nobody talks about that. All everybody knows is, oh yeah, well, you know, it's got the poster cards and the one ring and, you know, oh yeah. No, don't give me that shit. Nobody wanted it because nobody believed in it. And everybody was wrong. That's all it is to it. And we all should have learned something to that because we were all wrong. That's what it was. And that's the part that's not being talked about. And that's how these things happen. So, hope you guys learned something today. It's important, the key takeaway for at least one person out there that would watch this and actually learn something is just don't get into debt. I know we're going into a very emotional FOMO bull market. And if Bitcoin breaks the all-time high, it starts making a run to 100,000, the S&P keeps breaking highs, and interest rates keep going lower, and all these Magic and Pokemon sets keep going to the moon. Just remember, folks, bull markets are a euphoric, emotional, beautiful thing. But I can tell immediately whether an individual has been through a full market cycle. I can tell if someone's seen the dark side. I can tell if somebody's been in the card world for 2 years during the bear market when nobody wanted a box of cards. I can tell when someone's been holding Bitcoin for 2-3 years through crypto winter and Bitcoin just was shit for 2, 3, 4 years. I can tell the difference in those individuals versus the people that are just showing up now. Rudy, how many boxes of Surging Spark can I get? 3 cases? I need 5 cases. I'll pay you extra. I can tell the difference. And I also know that individual, and even if whether I sell to them or if I don't sell to them, they won't be around in 90 days. I've done this long enough to know I can spot it from a mile away. And I hope you guys are able to spot things a mile away after a video like this. I hope this helps at least some of you out there to think. And a lot of people hate Rudy for manipulating the market, I don't know, banging your ex, whatever it may be, but just please understand, think for yourself and just pay attention. If you're going to take advice from somebody, take advice from someone who's successful, who's smart, who has their credentials and has proven it. But be careful taking advice from a successful person that appears successful or someone who's trying to sell you on a way for you to get successful. Just be careful on that. I'll sell you cards. I'll sell you boxes of cards. You can keep them. You can throw them in your closet. You can flip them. You can open them. You can have fun with your family. You can do nothing with them. But as far as millionaires and trying to build net worth and all that stuff, like I said, the best advice is the most unsexy, boring advice, and that is stay away from debt and leverage. And just honestly work hard. But if you're not working smart, it doesn't matter how hard you work because you're in a hamster wheel. I've known people my whole life that have worked since they were 16 years old and they're dead fucking broke. They're in debt, they have no assets, and they're Timmies. I've known other people. I know people who work at Walmart. I know a woman who's worked at Walmart for 30-something years. She's got $1 million+ in Walmart stock and technically is a multi-millionaire. And she works the fucking clothing department at Walmart, putting the shirts in the hangers. And the sweetest, nicest person you can ever meet. Worth millions of dollars. Loves her job. Looks forward to it every day. And that's the difference. Those are the real successful people. There's teachers. There's military people. Navy, Air Force, Marines. teachers, firefighters, police people who risk their lives every day. Because you get some dumbass, one bad police officer, everyone acts like everyone's an asshole. You get one scumbag card store, and every card store is an evil scumbag Rudy. You get one bad firefighter, blah, blah, blah. You get one bad court judge case on the government and the courthouse, and everything's corrupt. It's not true. But that's how we live. Do the right thing, folks. Life will work out. Life will work out. Thanks for watching. I don't know. Support me if you want. Watch the videos if you want. Go hug your family. We won't end this video on a penis, but I will walk away so you guys can see the paintings. I believe that's a Wagner painting. I think it's German. That one's awesome. That's sieging the castle, where the family is hiding while they're sieging the castle, trying to kill and murder the family. And they're barricaded in. Very cool stuff. I can't remember the name of that one. The guy's coming home on the horse to his family and report good news. I think maybe like a war ending or something. Political power people playing chess. I love chess. And a beautiful environment with a Persian rug. Frank Moss Bennett, one of my favorite artists of all time. A bunch of political, powerful people discussing the world and business and power. Beautiful painting right here. No electricity, and a candle lit with the lighting and the glowing of a family just getting together in a very tough era of human civilization. War era. Andreas painting with a lot of the royalty and the leaders and the generals and everything talking about their next strategy. Hillingford painting. You guys can't see that one real good. Hillingford, Romeo and Juliet style. Presenting the man and the woman to the family, and the sisters and the king don't approve and they're angry at her. Oh, yes. Charles Webb, one of his best paintings ever, playing chess, discussing life, these old guys, and, realizing their end of their life. Frank Moss Bennett, during war times by a fire, talking about things. Frank Moss Bennett. Prechenfield, I think. Oh, sorry. Have a beautiful day, folks.